I'm sorry, Ruthie. I muted you all because I just started the YouTube feed. Ruthie, can you hear?
I can.
Kerry Villeneuve is sending an email. He's asking for the ID to just join by phone.
Sorry, Karen, could you repeat that?
Kerry Villeneuve, am I saying his name right? Is asking for the number and ID just to join by phone. So I'm looking if anybody has that faster than I do.
I'll forward him the link if I can. I don't know if they're connected or not, but I'll share with him the number.
Okay.
Hello?
Hello, Joanne.
Hi, I'm here.
Yay. Okay, I have 6:29. Should we give it a few more minutes? Let Kerry call in.
Hey, Carl, while we're waiting, I saw on the agenda that we might have some of the commission joining us. Is that happening?
That says that on all the emails.
Yeah, I was gonna say first of me.
It's just standard verbiage.
I'll go to 6:31. Are we still missing 2 or 3, Leona?
2 at this point.
Okay. Did Carrie get on? Did Carrie call in? Does anybody know? Okay, the meeting will come to order. Leona, would you like to do roll call, Leona?
Sure. Alex Collazo,
Present.
Brucey Cummins. Here. Caleb Gunter,
Here.
Carrie Villeneuve, Charlie Lykoff,
Here.
Deborah Rosenbaum,
Here.
Darren Heitner,
Present.
Gail Butler, Joanne Smith,
Here.
Karen Polivka,
Here.
Mariana Seiler,
Here.
Martha G. Steinkamp, Martha G. Steinkamp,
Here.
Mary Pelican, Robert Payne, and Tangerine Moore.
Present.
We do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure Carrie will log on in a minute. Shall we do a pledge of allegiance from our desk? We do have it on our roll call. I mean, on our agenda. Have you been doing that for all the meetings? Is that still? Or have we been skipping over the pledge? I guess we'll skip over the pledge of allegiance. Okay. Let's see, everyone receive and review the minutes? If so, any corrections to the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes. This is Debbie Rosenbaum.
I can second Mariana Seiler.
Okay, thank you so much. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Thank you. All right, Carl, do you want to get into the department update?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Good to see quite a few of you all. Our second tier meeting that we have virtually. I'll be brief. I really just want to make everyone aware that starting on September 8th, we're having an e-learning, essentially like a facilitated learning environment, where we will be using our facilities to allow residents and employees to drop their kid off, to basically have a day where they complete their educational work on site where it's supervised. And then we'll provide recreational enrichment after sometime around 2 o'clock until the end of the day around 6. So that's something new that we've kind of are really just planned, and we just started registration today. So we're looking to, bring that forward depending on how long, we're under this predicament that we're in as a nation. And with that said, that's pretty much all I want to share as a department update at this time. So that's it for me.
Oh, was there a specific name for that? So how are we promoting this?
Yeah, it's called an e-learning facility, if you will, where at Warfield, Oswald, Carter, and Croissant Park, we're have a maximum, I believe, of 15 students per site. And of course, we're abiding by CDC guidelines, where we'll open the facility from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. For that purpose.
Is that the virtual recreation center on the website, or is it separate?
No, this is actually in person. So a parent can drop their child off if you're in the grades of 1 to 5, where that we'll accept the child in. We'll give them a spot in the facility to complete their online virtual schoolwork that they would, which would allow the parent to, go to work. So that's kind of the idea behind it.
I have a question, Carl. This is
Yeah.
Debbie Rosenbaum. Are we using Carter Park facilities?
Yes, for the e-learning, yes.
All right. Are we introducing any of the kids to the swimming program at all?
Yeah, so swimming will be available for Carter and one of our other sites, the sites that have pools. So, but yes, pools will be part of the enrichment portion.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, because especially with Carter Park, because that not only has the pool, it also has the basketball courts and it has the track field. I mean, Carter Park is just an amazing park.
That's an amazing program. I would assume you're going to get pretty overwhelmed pretty fast when that word gets out.
Yeah, well, we're controlling it at the moment. We are starting after the school year, so we kind of don't know what our numbers will look like. Yeah. But we are promoting it. We started promoting it yesterday, so we'll see as the days go on.
Where can people find the information?
So right now, we are reaching out to past after school care parents and youth, letting them know about it. We're also sending out emails through our email blast and phone listing, as well as some of our social media posts.
Okay.
Carl, another question. Are we introducing any coaches into the swimming program so that the kids can learn how to swim as well? I mean, I understand that they got the splash pool and everything, but actually teaching the kids to become comfortable in the water, learning how to swim.
So that's a possibility. We haven't really discussed adding an actual swim coach. You know, at this moment, we're kind of trying to limit the amount of people on premise, just from a safety standpoint, and to kind of be overly precautious, if you will. But it's a possibility that we can look into adding that as we go on. But our main point at this point is basically to provide an outlet for parents to, you know, be able to continue going to work and, you know, having faith that their child will get their work done and in our care in a supervised and safe environment.
Are we
So
giving
Carl,
special preference to the parents or the neighborhood itself, the kids in the neighborhood itself versus kids that are coming from outlying areas because of the location of the neighborhood to the park?
So right now we are limiting it to residents only at this time. Not necessarily in a certain community, but residents of Fort Lauderdale is what we are allowing at this time.
Okay, so
Hyde Park.
Employees as well.
go ahead.
Is there a fee, Carl?
There is. Let me get back to you on the fee. I don't have it, the flyer in front of me, but there is a fee.
What about underserved
I'm assuming
kids?
there's a limitation as to the number of people in each program at each location.
Yes, a maximum of 15 students.
1-5?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'd like to know what the fee is too, Carl.
I'll tell you right now. The fee is for a resident. The fee is $500, and that is from September 8th until we get out for a winter break. And then we also are accepting YES fee, which is our youth enrichment scholarship. So any individual who would receive a free or reduced lunch will be available to get this supervised e-learning experience for $125.
Are we allowing any incentives for, like subsidies for families that are not, that want to participate in the program, but are not capable of paying the $500 fee?
Yes, so there is also sibling discounts also.
Good to know. Thank you.
Just like our normal programs, but we did have to tweak it a little because the day is extended and we're providing breakfast, lunch, and snack. So from 7 to 6 and 7 in the morning till 6 at night, you know, the youth will not only have the educational component, they'll have breakfast, they'll have lunch, they'll have a snack, and then from 2 to 6, which would be our normal after school time, they will be engaged when like physical education as well as other enrichment opportunities that we can have available on site.
You need
So Carl,
volunteers.
one more question. I'm sorry. So Carl, are the kids and the counselors are gonna have to be tested for COVID before being accepted into the program?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Do the kids that the 15 slots that you have, are they gonna be required to get tested for COVID?
No.
Okay.
Will they be taking temperatures?
So ultimately, what we'll do is we'll kind of phase this out similar to how we would have done, which is once we're notified, if we have any cases or anything like that, we'll address accordingly.
I do want to point out to everybody, although I'm not sure if I'm considered a host, if you open up the participant box that's on the very bottom of your Zoom page, you have the option to raise your hand. And that way everybody would have a chance to speak. I'm just not sure how I see it if I'm listed as a host or not, but it would be a good option if you want to try, so you can have an option to speak.
Karen, you're listed as a chair.
Oh, good. Okay. So does everybody see you can raise your hand?
No, it's gone now.
Well, you just click on the participant box again, and the box will pop up. And then on the bottom, you have options.
There you
Like,
go. Thank you.
mute, and raise hand. And then everybody can take a turn and hopefully get a chance to speak. Anybody else have questions for Carl? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't. Go ahead. I don't see your
I
hand.
wanted, yeah, I wanted to know, Carl, if you need any volunteers to help out.
So volunteers typically always will be welcome, but at this point, we're kind of limiting the number of people that will be on site rather. We are discussing some other options virtually, like a virtual teacher or virtual instructor that we can hire and be able to provide some kind of an outlet from that standpoint. But I kind of don't want to have additional people outside of the people that actually need to be there for the program itself.
Maybe reach out, Carl, to like some local resources. I know the Fort Lauderdale Historical Society is trying to kind of ramp up their involvement again in the community, and there's some other groups that are doing the same. So maybe they would want to do a virtual, like, quick lesson or something for those groups in their free time.
What group was that, Mariana?
I know the Fort Lauderdale Historical Society is trying to like re-ramp up their involvement. So that might be a good, even just a 30-minute Zoom of here's the history of the city. To
Okay,
give something other than an outdoor option.
Thank you, that's good.
Alex, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to chime in real quick. I been attending some of the Educational Advisory Board meetings. I hadn't heard about this. I think it's a great program. Our civic association here in Ponsonby Heights has been working hand in hand with our local schools, specifically Bennett and Sunrise Middle. I think this would be a great program that Education Advisory Board might be able to jump on top of, and then hopefully we can expand it to other schools since we're so limited in capacity per school. And, like Brucey said, I think, since we're working hand in hand as a civic association with the PTA and the school, we would be able to maybe recruit some volunteers to make it a little easier for the teachers that are actually trying to educate while you got to monitor and everything else. So I just want to put that out there. Hopefully that shows up on their radar as well, so we can get this going.
Okay, Brucey, I see your hand up.
Yes, could you repeat, Carl, what age groups are you looking for, or what levels?
Grades 1 through 5.
1 through 5, thank you.
Deborah?
Would you be interested in welcoming any fundraising in this effort? Because I could probably beat the drum a little bit.
No, that's great. So part of how we're able to do this is we've actually gotten quite a bit of support from our CRA. We also have some funding coming from the United Way to provide some support. And then, of course, from our grant that we currently have with the Child Care Food Program, that's going to essentially help out with providing the meals for our students. So, I mean, at this time, we're pretty okay from a funding perspective. But if that does kind of come into question, I certainly will reach out to you directly to see.
Just FYI, Carl, and everyone else, in the last year and a half with the swim team, because I'm one of the board, I'm actually a chair on the board for the swim team. I have actually done a lot of fundraising for the Carter Park community, where we actually hosted a lot of families for Christmas, supplied them with all sorts of, and this is ongoing, bus passes for 6 months, food for the Christmas, holiday gifts for the families. There's been a lot of backpack fundraisers. So I'm able to do that if this is something that you want to employ.
Carl, you said United Way is one of your funding sources.
Yes.
Are they also providing, I know they were doing like trailers. Are they providing any of those to the city, or are those back in separate, different communities? Since
No,
we have brick and mortar spots.
no, they're actually just providing funding. We're using our actual facilities for, coverage for the
Okay.
actual program itself.
So Deborah, as an aside, United Way is doing fundraising still, and if some of that money is going back to this program, you might want to reach out to them.
Thank you, Mariana.
Okay. If you raise your hand, don't forget to put it back down so I know to call on you next time. Brucey. Just trying not to call you out. Okay, any other questions for Carl? Are we ready to move on? Looking for hands, no hands. Okay, so let's see. Ken Krasnow, are you still with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Did I say your name properly?
You did. Thank you very much, Karen.
All right, well, welcome.
I'm Ken Krasnow. I'm with Colliers. We are the city's real estate advisor, and I think we met with your group back in May, talking about our updates with regards to expanding the park space within the city. Hope everybody is doing well. I think we thought we'd be in a different state at this time when we last met virtually in May, but here we are. So we're obviously going through a very challenging time. I appreciate all the work you guys are doing on the programming and so on and so forth. Our job here is to try to expand the park footprint within the city. So hopefully after this update, you'll have a bunch of questions and we'll be happy to answer them. So just as a reminder, based on the ESRI and 10-minute walkable goal, we identified 5 areas of need throughout the city, and we've been diligently working trying to identify obviously challenging times, both in terms of the market as well as in this COVID environment. Just to give you again reminder of our process, we identify properties, we order appraisals, we go through that process, and then based on that valuation, we create a letter of intent. When we get to the point that we have a property under control, under an option contract, we come to you folks for your input, and presuming you are in line with our process, we then bring to City Commission. So if you remember, we closed on our first acquisition back in April in District 1, a small parcel on North Ocean. And we're here today to give you an update on 2 other properties that are under consideration. So the first, as you may remember, we had this discussion back in May. We went through our due diligence. We brought it to commission on July 7th. The commission did not approve of the purchase. They wanted some more information, which we've been working on. And as of a week or so ago, they've agreed to go forward with the acquisition. As you can see there, we got a small reduction in price. So the price is now 2.54 million. And we will bring that back to commission on October 6th. And then hopefully, close within, roughly 30 days, from there. So I think we all felt like this was a great site, historically significant waterfront, et cetera. Based on some revision of information, or I should say expansion of information, commission is comfortable moving forward. So we'll bring that back for final approval, as I said, in October. The next property that we want to talk about is a new acquisition target. As you can see there, it's in District 4. It's about 2.16 acres in a specified area of need. The address is Southwest 5th Court and Southwest 12th Avenue, really adjacent to Riverside Park. This next slide gives you a better visual. We think, again, a very exciting opportunity. It was not a property that was on the market. So again, we had to search and come to an agreement here. Originally, as you can see there, the seller was looking for a little over $5 million. We've got the property under contract at just a tad, $4,050,000. So we're excited about this opportunity. Again, an expansion of Riverside Park, waterfront property. That cul-de-sac road there would be merged into the ultimate park there. So that is the next target acquisition. Will go through our due diligence process, pending your input, review, and approval. And I mean, I can go through if anybody has any questions, or I can. This is just really just a quick little, summary. As I said, we closed on our first one. We're continuing to gather input both from a number of members of this board, community members, commissions, staff, etc. Very focused on working within those areas of need. 2 districts in particular that we're really very, very focused on right now, District 3 in Melrose Park, and in District 1 trying to expand and add some, again, more waterfront for, that can accommodate more like a kayak boat launch, give those residents access to the water. But the goal for today's meeting is to talk to you about our next proposed acquisition here in District 4, the expansion of Riverside Park. And so I think that's the basic overview information. Happy to take input, questions.
Mary, I see your hand up. Mary, did you have a question?
Yes, sorry. I love it that these properties are on the water, but I also know that water's, pretty historical. Do we have archaeologists ever look at any of these properties?
Yes.
I mean, having worked for the Seminole Tribe of Florida, I know that they were in this area quite a bit. Do we have anybody look at like this property and the Waverly property?
Yes, that is part of our due diligence. In fact, that was one of the areas that the commission wanted more analysis of, if you will, from on Waverly. So it is part of our due diligence process when we go through survey and et cetera. So, but archaeological, again, knowing the significance and the historical activity in this area is definitely part of our due diligence.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Deborah, is that you?
Yes, Jerry. I'm interested because I started this conversation with Phil a year ago, and it kind of fell by the wayside. I'm interested in there's no green space in the barrier island. I was always wanting, I always want, because I was president of the Central Beach Alliance, and I really wanted to find a way to implement a dog park in North Beach Village. Is there something that you can do to accommodate that or find a way to do that?
Short answer is yes. I mean, again, we do, but I'll take that under advisement with the team and with Phil and with the, with staff, and certainly, get some more input from you.
There's a lot of people in the north, in not only just the Central Beach Alliance area, but North Beach Village specifically, because it's such an intense area, and people, I mean, we're talking about basically a retired community. They have a lot of dogs, and there's no place to walk the dogs. There's no place to take the dogs.
Okay.
If you have any specific parcels that you think could fit for a park, also let us know and we'll, look into those as well in that area.
Few parcels that I have looked at, so I'm happy to discuss it.
Absolutely. Yeah, just let us know.
You were on. And Louisa, is Louisa on as well?
She should be.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize. Sorry, welcome. Do you two have any input? Something beyond that? Or Ken's pretty much doing the presentation, right?
Correct.
Okay. Brucey, did you put your hand back down? It was
I
Brucey.
did. I did, but I'll raise it again. I wanted to know if the Whedon property is still being looked at, or has that been canceled out? That was the piece of property between.
Brucey, can we just stick with this property first and then we'll move on to that one? Is that okay? So we can streamline our questions?
Oh,
So
I thought we were talking about all properties. Sorry.
No, we're actually, we are looking for your approval to move forward with continuing due diligence and moving forward on this acquisition.
Alex, you had a question?
Yes, I just wanted to chime in on regards to one, the property, and I think it's a great property. I love seeing the waterfront stuff. I think a lot of us in South Florida that have boats would love to see these boater-friendly properties. My question is, hypothetically, the city acquires the property. I know we talked a little bit about kayaks and maybe a little boat ramp or something, which I think there's quite a few in this area. But will there be dock space for like boats to come by? And is that something that is in the talks yet, or is that something that is discussed after the acquisition?
Most of the programming discussion happens, after we get a property. So I think in general, there was the perspective that, if we can find, good, suitable waterfront property, there's a lot of options in terms of what, Phil and his team, will be able to program for it. But
I guess let me rephrase, Ken, because I can't zoom in on the property to see it, but it looks like there's little basins and possibly docks already there. So, just chiming in, I'm hoping that would be an availability as it becomes a public space that people could just go visit in their boats and have a picnic or
you would think if you look around it, you'll see a number of boats already, in the area there.
Okay.
But again, I leave all the programming conversation to Phil and his team.
Okay, and I had some other comments, but since we're trying to streamline, I agree with Karen. I think we should try and stick to the agenda. I'm going to save those until those topics come up. So I'm going back on mute. Thank you.
Joanne?
Just had a question. Is this going to be like a passive park, or is there going to be any parking for people that are not a resident in that area?
Again, I'm not, we haven't had detailed discussions on the exact use. I think the targets are, areas of need, waterfront property, et cetera. Once we, get control of the property and we've got, consensus, then I think the programming discussions start.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if anybody from, Phil's team is on or if they've ever, what the thought was, but, this is really, this is an early stage process, right? We need to secure the property before we can start, thinking about what we want to do with it.
Well, I think typically don't we do programming late? Like that's part of our board as well, where we've had to look at different ideas for the parks. We address programming for it. So I think it's just deciding whether or not to move forward with the acquisition.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's hear from Phil. Phil?
Thank you. Good evening. So, yeah, just to follow up into with Ken's comments, and as we've discussed with the board as well, all the parks as we move forward with development will be reaching out to the neighborhoods and the surrounding areas and actually the city as a whole with our program manager to get input on what they want to see done at the park. So the question about the boats and the question about the passive and rec and all that, that will all be discussed once we start to engage the outreach with the community. And then once we have a conceptual plan on what the community and those that in the area and the stakeholders want to see happen there, and we feel comfortable enough as staff that we have met those needs as much as we can, then that's when that would come to the board for your review. So you will have a look at this again before it, as far as the development side, if in fact we purchase it. As far as the development side, we'll do all the front end work, and then once we're ready to move forward with the development side, the board will have input on that before there's a shovel put in the ground.
So we're looking for a motion at this point?
This is Charlie. I have a question. I'm not able to put my hand up here, but I do have a question though for Ken.
Yes.
Have you done any research as to the condition of the seawalls?
No, but that would be part of our due diligence. We have time to go through, an extensive due diligence process to see if there are any issues like that, or archaeological or other, call it impediments. But, so all of that will be done during our, I think we have a 90-day
Yeah, I would be
due diligence.
concerned about the seawalls basically causing the price of the property to drop as far as the negotiated price because of the extensive seawall repairs that may need to be done there before the price is negotiated.
A good point.
I mean, seawall repairs are very, very expensive. I mean, you could spend $300,000-$400,000 repairing those seawalls if they need it.
Okay, so at this point, are we looking for a motion?
I'll move that they move forward with their due diligence.
Yeah,
I'll second it.
I second that motion as well. I like that property.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I second it.
Okay, I got like 1,000,001 seconds. Who was the first person?
I think Alex was the second one.
Is there any discussion?
I just am concerned that this is the price that we've negotiated without looking further into some of these other concerns people are having.
Nothing's firmed up until after the survey. That's when.
Is that true, Ken?
That's what we're gonna do, yes. I mean, so.
Okay,
I
as
mean,
part of your
if
due
we-
diligence, you'll look into the
Exactly.
seawall.
If we find some major issues, we're obviously then, going to go back and deal with a price adjustment or potentially not, move forward. That's what our option and due diligence periods gives us the ability to do.
Okay, thank you.
Karen, you're muted.
Muted.
I hate that. But that's a normal process, Charlie. You make an offer, you come to an agreement, you get a contract on the table, then you have the time of due diligence before you go back to the table to renegotiate and make sure everything's okay. Any other discussion?
I just wanted to be sure.
Great question. Okay, shall we take a vote? Leona, do you want to go individually?
Yes, I will do that. Alex Collazo,
I vote yes.
Brucey Cummins,
Absolutely.
Caleb Gunter,
Yes.
Harry Villeneuve,
Wait,
Charlie
Carrie just
Lightfoot?
emailed back.
Yeah, Carrie, yeah, yes, Charlie, yes, sorry.
Sorry.
Is Carrie Villeneuve present?
He emailed that he's on, but he can't unmute.
Can somebody text him?
Yeah, I can actually. Hold on, he emailed. Sorry, Leona, you can continue with your roll call. I'll try and text him.
Okay, Charlie.
Mariana, I would not have a board member texting another board member. Let the staff
Oh, yeah.
do that, please.
Okay, Carl.
Charlie Dykoff,
Yes.
Deborah Rosenbaum,
Yes.
Darren Heitner,
Yes.
Gail Butler, Joanne Smith,
Yes.
Karen Polivka,
Yes.
Hey, Leona, real quick, Carrie just sent a note saying that he votes yes.
okay, duly
Also,
noted.
Jerry, are you on? Are you available? Because we're trying to get Carrie on as a normal participant, but he's currently on just as an attendee.
Here, is he the one called in by phone? Last 49714.
I believe so, yes.
Hello, Carrie, are you there?
Okay, continue with the roll call. Mariana Seiler,
I vote yes.
Martha G. Steinkamp,
Yes.
Mary Pelican,
Yes.
Robert Payne, Tangerine Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So if everybody's in agreement, the other topics that you wanted to bring up, if we could just wait until after our presentation with Sean McCaffrey and the War Memorial Project update. Sean, are you on?
I am. Good evening. How are you?
Great, welcome.
I guess I'll share my screen if that's the best way to begin. So
Yes.
that work on your end, and then
Yes.
should be. Do you have it on screen now?
I see it.
Okay, great. I think I had a chance to address this group. Seems like not too long ago, but I think it was at the beginning of the year because we were all in person before COVID hit. You know, we've been moving the project along. Right now, our anticipated timeline to break ground is probably right after the new year. Obviously, some delays just getting through things, lack of in-person meetings, a few other things going on. You know, that have slated just kind of pushed it a little bit to the right, just based on operating in the COVID environment. But I'll run through this. I don't think there's any key fundamental changes in terms of the layout. You know, there's a few minor tweaks that I don't think I had the opportunity to brief this group last time. So I'll just kind of run through the basic concept just to, you know, reorient the audience for that. And then I can take questions at the end if that's the best way to go about it. So I think most people are familiar, obviously existing War Memorial Auditorium. We're using the site in and around it. Still working through the final, what's going to go in the War Memorial Auditorium. You know, but ultimately it's a pretty dated building, about 70 years old, needs massive upgrades in terms of just the aesthetics, the inner workings of that. So it'll be repurposed, remodeled, you know, for a multi-use space, concerts, events, trade shows, etc. Like I think it was currently used, just trying to bring it up to a more modern standard to get a little more utilization, you know, from that building. To the east is where a majority of the new structure, will be basically added on to that existing structure in the south. It'll be the key fundamental heartbeat of it is the two rinks. To the north we're calling that our community ice rink. To the south will be a shared ice rink, which the Panthers, the team, will practice on. But for the most part, team practice probably 100 or so days a year, a couple hours a day, and then the rest of the time it opens up to a variety of ice activities from figure skating to hockey leagues for pretty much from probably about 3 to 70, 75. We have guys still out there playing in our adult league. And then to the south of that is all of the supporting amenities for the team in terms of locker spaces, training rooms. In between those two rinks, it's kind of back of the house, mechanicals, and then all your locker rooms, etc. That support those on ice activities. So figure skating rooms, ref locker rooms, team locker rooms, etc. Just to the north of the shared ice rink, those three spaces here, my cursor's kind of pointing to them. They're currently slated to be multi-purpose event rooms that can be used for a variety of things. Kind of a blank box, a birthday party can go in there, a community meeting, etc., can be held in all of those. Obviously, they'll be built modularly to kind of change the square footage around, so they can go anywhere from 15 to 20 people to probably the larger space can probably host 80 to 100. Going on to the next, it's really our level 2. For the most part, both of the bleachers on both of the rinks will have an ingress up to the second level. That's where we try to create a more communal feel. In the center, for the most part, we'll probably have a lot of lounge space, etc., for people to really kind of hang out, socialize, etc. And that's majority where all our food and beverage operations will be. The highlighted area where I have my cursor now, I will show that in a later slide. I don't think we had the opportunity to brief you that last time I met with you. We were kind of in the initial pie in the sky design, brainstorming that. But I think it'll be a pretty unique space for the park and the city, incorporating both indoor and outdoor, seating, and an ability to kind of just hang out in the rink. So I'll show you a picture of that in a later slide. I think key concern in terms of the building was to try not to build a blank box warehouse feel. I think our architects, along with our general contractor, have done a good job of trying to contrast a lot of different materials, break up the sides of the building, and then obviously complement the historic structure, the war memorial that's existing there now. So this is really just an example of different materiality. They'll be brought in different colors, different ways to break up the building. Just in terms of just basic elevation views, this is kind of how it'll look. You see the existing building right on top, and then obviously, it'll extend out from the sides. Key part of their design considerations was to keep obviously the war memorial, at the forefront, and then they kept all the roof lines at or below the existing height. So we didn't want any of the new modern structure to kind of dominate the existing structure and the kind of cool Art Deco look that exists there now. This is just the highlights. Obviously, this is the rear. I'll go into this space that I'm pointing out here. That kind of shows you it's going to be an elevated terrace, kind of garden feel there as well. Just to orient you further there, that'll overlook pickleball courts. If people are kind of confused on where that's facing, and then this just gives you a side view, from the north. So, and I think this just kind of highlights the different materialities, how they're used. Mixture of rib metal, different polycarbonates that will reflect light to kind of break up the sides, and different paint colors. So I think the building, where it is now, is going to be pretty good looking and complement, obviously the historic feel and look of the existing auditorium. Just in terms of a couple perspectives, one to kind of give a park view. I know some of the concerns were, obviously with the new addition, some trees are coming down. Our landscape plan in terms of new plantings will pretty much double the current trees that exist on the site. So there are a few trees being removed, but I think there's plenty being put back. This view really gives you a view from the south. So if you're looking from Victoria Park to the north, key part of the landscape design was kind of not just placing landscape around the facility, but complementing it in multiple layers. So as trees grow, as they become more mature, the building will become less and less visible from other parts of the park. So the landscape is more layered in the approach. I think the next view just gives a similar look. Another key concern we faced was really there's a walking path that comes from the south. The back of the building, this just kind of gives you a view of that slightly rerouted and a basic park view of the facility. It's really, this is kind of the outdoor space. Obviously, we're in Florida. I think we had a unique opportunity. Ice rinks in itself are not usually, don't usually bring in the outdoor elements and our ability to take advantage of weather here. We thought there was requests for some sort of elevated green space, and based on our design and where we could place it, just based on some structural limitations, some ingress egress limitations. This was really the best we thought the best spot. So I think it's centrally located in the rear of the building. It incorporates the food and beverage in the building, which will be kind of a pub tavern style feel. And then we've kind of designed that outdoor terrace space to be multi-use. It can be used for seating, food, etc. And then it'll be modular in nature, where we can take out tables, etc., and program different community activities that we think can fit into that space. So picture in the bottom right really doesn't show the space itself, but that was kind of just one of the inspirations. A turf field where it can be used for yoga or other fitness events or anything like that. So that's really all I had. I can take specific questions. I may not have every question the answer right for you, but we'll be happy to follow up with the appropriate product after this.
I don't see any hands up. Oh, Mariana, go ahead. You're muted, Mariana.
I don't have a question, just have a comment. Sean, I think that's awesome. I really like what you did, keeping the trees there. And I love the idea of having the rooftop and kind of like green loft space. So keep going. I think it's great.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Alex?
Yeah, same thing. Just want to chime in. Been excited about this project since we've started monitoring and the oversight for it. And I just want to know when we're scheduled to break ground. We're an adjacent community, and we're excited about this.
We're hoping January at this point. Final stages of DRC. There's a few minor edits on that. We've already gone through county water, sewer, etc. So we're moving forward pretty quickly. We were actually hoping to be initial demo shovel in the ground here probably about this month, but obviously I think as we all learned, operating in this environment's been pretty tough and challenging across the board just in terms of communication. Just as information right now, if any of you have been by there recently, the county's actually still using the building. They were looking for a COVID contract tracing for a large amount of employees that they had to stand up to help with just tracing positive cases across the county. So if you see the cars there around, they're really, we just kind of lent it to them. I think they'll probably vacate it in a month when they get a more permanent space for those employees they've been using for the last couple months. So, I think that was a reasonable, probably that probably delayed us a bit, but obviously trying to get to a solution there was more important than to get this going right on our timeline that we needed.
Brucey?
Yes, I wondered about the bar aspect. We're in a park. Does that have anything to do with having liquor in the park? What is that? Number two, the second question I had is, what's happening to the big facility that they built not too many years ago out west? And three, a comment, and I know this goes against Alex, but we were told last year or asked how we thought having the War Memorial used as a hockey rink and actually putting a rink inside. And that has obviously morphed to not using the War Memorial at all. We're just going to build around it and then think of something to do with it. I find it kind of interesting.
To answer your first question, the War Memorial right now in any event had liquor sales. So I think it's been used like that for many years. It's been a concert and events venue for since 1950 or so, and beer and liquor sales have been a part of that. I think that's pretty commonplace in venues like this. Obviously, we operate a large arena with 1 million people through here a year, along with our Coral Springs facility, and obviously make sure we're safe in terms of how we serve alcohol and obviously follow the law. So I don't think that's a concern on our end. I think it's pretty commonplace across the U.S. where there's in Central Park in New York and Bryant Park and parks all over the country, there's some sort of food and beverage where people can hopefully in the park maybe have a glass of wine and enjoy themselves in the outdoors. So I think this is providing an opportunity for this. Second question, I remember your third. What was second? I apologize.
It was that the Panthers had built quite a big place out west.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, how did that all of a sudden disappear and now we've got a new big place out east?
That we still own, and we plan to operate that. Obviously us as a team and as a sport, Florida is one of the fastest growing markets for youth hockey. We have NHL players coming out of here. We've been top 5 in the nation in growth. So in order to keep growing the sport, ice sheets are needed. So our 3-sheeter in Coral Springs is basically over capacity right now. So I think it's a perfect opportunity to expand the sport. And it really can't expand, unless there's additional sheets. So I think this is giving the supply to the demand of the market, and people want to play. Kids want to figure skate. There's a large adult population of hockey players here. So giving them more access, I think is a positive. And then for third, initially we had an initial discussion of using the War Memorial of a rink. I don't know where that information was given. That was definitely definitive. We were never set in stone and never briefed a rink specifically in the War Memorial. We tried to fit it, see if it was feasible. For the most part, War Memorial is pretty aged. There's a lot of mechanical dehumidification considerations to even keep a rink. Going to a structure like that, it wouldn't have worked in there. And then in terms of right sizing a 200 by 80 foot rink, we could have fit it, but it wouldn't have fit well, and it would have been extremely awkward in the existing structure. So we initially had a conversation about that, but we never briefed that a rink was going to go in there, and that was the plan. So I apologize if it was relayed that way. But our conversations with commissioners, with the mayor, we never briefed a plan like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alex?
Yeah, I just wanted to let Brucey know that we're operating on behalf of the city of Fort Lauderdale here, but when the county opened up John U. Lake State Park at Whiskey Creek, and they opened up Park and Ocean over here at Birch State Park, it has really contributed a lot of funding, and this is in regards to the sale of alcohol in the parks. Let's not kid ourselves. Fort Lauderdale is a top 10 destination maybe in the United States for vacation, and when people come down here they want to have fun. So serving drinks can contribute to a lot of the funding for these parks, and Broward County did it, and they did it very successfully. So I go to Birch State all the time now. I could take the dogs there and hang out in a park and have a beer and sit outside, when really you can't do that in very many places anymore. So I just wanted to chime in on alcohol and the sales of alcohol in the City of Fort Lauderdale parks. I don't know. I know they do it for I don't know how the rules and regulations break down in that regard, but I think that if any of that funding goes back towards the park, that it would be a good thing.
I couldn't agree with Alex more. I mean, I'm a swimmer, so we do a lot of open water, and we go to Park and Ocean, and Park and Ocean is such a perfect venue for being outdoors, and it brings people to the park, and then introduces them to the park if they haven't ever been there. Mary had been there for the first time some months ago, and she loved it.
Oh yeah, and they had Guinness there too. It was fine with me.
But you're not allowed to drink on the beach, supposedly. I know we do, but you're not supposed to, right?
It's not the
We're
beach.
not on the beach, we're in a park. We're in the
Well,
park.
and Park and Ocean was a special exception that was run through the city commission. Like they did, from what I understand, it's a state park, and they had to get some sort of understanding with the city to even be able to allow alcohol sales there. So I assume something similar would happen with War Memorial. It wouldn't just be all of a sudden the Panthers decide to sell alcohol. It would have to be run, right, Sean?
Yes, but there's actually there's an existing liquor license for War Memorial that's been in place. My guess is for multiple decades. When
Okay.
I mean, especially in the 50s and 60s, that there's some pretty cool history of the place in terms of the artists that have played there. And I assume at that time they were selling alcohol, and then I know in events in the 80s and 90s, where people are drinking beer and using it as whether it was a boxing match or a different concert, etc.
They serve alcohol in Parker Playhouse, which is in the same park.
I was going to say that, Caleb.
And the city does allow it for Starlight Musicals, although it's not for sales. That's for, you bring your own and you set up in Holiday Park. And Starlight Musicals is one of our family favorites. We're disappointed we didn't get to do it this year, but that's it's not a sale of alcohol, or at least not that I know of, but it's not frowned upon. So,
Any other questions for Sean?
I actually have one more if nobody else does. Sorry. Sean, I know in the beginning you said you were going to try and continue the War Memorial aspect of the location. Is that still on the table? Are you still going to work with that background?
In the aspect in terms of
just showcasing that history of the War Memorial in general.
Yeah, it's obviously it's important. It's the War Memorial. It's a great tribute to especially our local veterans. Obviously it's near and dear to our owner's heart, being a veteran. Our CEO is myself is. So, we have some pretty cool plans in terms of highlighting that. We still have a lot of veterans in uniform from our community right now that are still serving overseas. A few have lost their lives over the last decade. So we plan to definitely highlight that and focus on it. And I think renovating it and building upon it, and it being a really cool place that the community can rally on, it will just be a kind of a glorified reminder of, something that's kind of gotten a little dated and isn't necessarily, I think, probably the best tribute right now in its current condition to our veterans.
Thank you.
Caleb?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question. I know it was asked before, but it was a concern quite a while back about the pickleball courts behind it. The footprint as it stands is still not going to inlay on the pickleball courts. That came to our attention many times.
It's not. Both pickleball courts will still be there, and the current layout, we had to rework a lot of things, but there was a walking path and pedestrian kind of ingress egress behind there that'll still be preserved as well. So for people that were used to walking behind the building to get to a different part of the park, they'll still be able to do that as well.
So Sean, what changed in that regard where the residents were upset? Was it just the pathway? Was it the courts to the pickleball?
I think it was the pathway initially, and there was one resident in particular that was extremely upset about that thought that pathway was going to go away. I have no idea where the pickleball rumor started, that one of the courts was going to be destroyed, but that was never the plan, and it's not the plan now. So, I heard that through the grapevine multiple times, but both of them will still be up and running for people to play.
Caleb, do you have another question or no? Is your hand still up, Caleb?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't lower it.
It's okay. Alex and then Mary.
Yeah, I just, I thought about the pick. Can you guys hear me? I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm on mute or not.
Yes.
Okay. We had the pickleball presentation and they were asking for that exponential expansion of pickleball courts. And, seeing what we have now, I mean, we kind of went into that discussion a little bit. It's not on the agenda. I don't want to dive too far into that, but it's my understanding that it was just a simple proximity issue where basically it was the arena, a pathway, and then the pickleball courts were right there. And it all works. I mean, the layout works fine, but, proximity, I like the fact that you guys have that new outdoor green space that's overlooking the pickleball courts. I think that might go a long way with the people that are in the pickleball community. And, I don't necessarily think we have to add 20 new courts of pickleball to Holiday Park, but, on that respect, maybe we could spread out, we can work on with the pickleball community and adding a couple of courts here and there throughout so we don't have to have all of them all in one place. That's all I have to say about that.
Carrie, I do see your question on email, but we'll have Mary go first and then I'll bring up your question.
Just real quick, I really appreciate that the walking or jogging path is still there, just so you know. It wasn't me that complained, but I do use that for walking and when I'm a little bit lighter running. So if that path, I know this is probably not in your purview, but if it is, if it can stay mulch and never become cement, because us older people have a little bit of trouble running on cement. So the beauty of that path is that it is easy on the feet and legs. So again, I know that's not probably something you're worried about so far, but I do appreciate the fact that it's still there.
That's actually good input because I've had some input from people that complained about the feet gravel of some of the paths where people roll their ankles and it's hard to run. So I think we actually had it plotted in terms of our site plan as a concrete, but that's an easy change to if that's the community preference.
Well, it would definitely be mine. It's somebody that when all the pools were closed and had to walk 5 miles, on cement, which I enjoyed, but pretty soon it took a toll on my feet. And it's probably some of it's my age, but having a path that's not cement, it's hard. They're hard to find. They really are hard to find. So it'd be great if it could be remain what it is somehow.
I think Phil has enough information for us.
I really don't have any information, but I did want to. Good evening, Sean. Thanks for joining. I guess I'm the mouthpiece now for Carrie. So Carrie's wanting a couple questions for Sean to respond to. hopefully these haven't already been asked, but he's wanting to know, Sean, on the use of the indoors, since we're going to be working on the master plan for the entire park and what's going to be programmed there. If maybe during that process, we can also ask the neighborhood and those that show interest in what's going to happen in the park itself, what they may want to see happen inside the War Memorial, to give you guys some idea on what the community and the neighborhood might want to see happening in there. And secondly, he's also, I think, part of that wondering how much of the War Memorial building itself will be used for the public, for public use versus for-profit events. And is there going to be time for the public to use it for different activities as well? Hopefully I did a good job.
I think you did, Phil. I think to answer the first one, part of the lease agreement we actually have where we're programming it with you for non-event days in the auditorium for different community uses. So, I think it's going to be a conversation, a relationship between us in terms of what Parks and Rec has identified as community needs to use that. Obviously, if there's a boxing match or some sort of show, that the type of event that normally went on in that, we'll have to work around the schedule. But most of those are scheduled 3 to 6 months out. So I think it'll be very easy where we'll know what's going on and then be able to publish a monthly schedule in terms of what activities are a best fit for that space. We're cognizant it's a great flat surface indoors, especially during the hot months, so that there's a variety of uses that can be used there. In terms of the facility itself, profit versus not profit, obviously, when people are utilizing the ice, it'll be a fee within our lease deal. There'll be a discount for city residents. But we've tried to create the facility where it's very welcoming. I think the initial entrance into the facility, there's plotted seating out there where people can grab a coffee and relax. There's multiple communal spaces where people can just come in with a laptop and hang out. And then we have those community rooms as well, to almost create like an indoor park type feel. So I think it can still be used for a variety. There's a bunch of things you can just come in and you don't have to pay to come in at all. But at the end of the day, it's a multiples of 10 million investment, and there's parts of it that we do have to monetize to obviously be able to pay our principal and interest payments at the end of the day.
Brucey, you're next.
I'm totally blanking on what I was going to ask. Sorry.
Alex, you're up.
Yeah, I always like Carrie's perspective and questions on here, and just expanding on that. This is kind of new territory as we see Fort Lauderdale merging with Florida Panthers to create this entity. And I guess expanding on Carrie's question, what typically who would be managing those areas that he's concerned about, as far as the public areas that, say somebody wants to have a bar mitzvah or a quince or something like that, if there's an area that, or yoga, or I don't know, whatever some club or a private event might be, is that something that the city of Fort Lauderdale would be managing, or is that something that the Florida Panthers will be managing?
We'll be managing that and have control. In our Coral Springs facility, that's pretty common. We have everything from Toastmaster groups, community groups that come in and utilize our space there to, bar mitzvahs, birthday parties, Christmas parties, you name it. So, we're pretty used to being able to obviously accommodate a lot of different sorts of events. But we'll have control over the facility.
Okay.
Brucey. You're muted, Brucey. We can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I was going to comment on the cement walkway that Mary was talking about. And the pathway that they put in Lewis Landing is fabulous. That is kind of the rubberized path. And they were worried about it a number of years ago that it wouldn't hold up. And I'll tell you, it's fantastic. Everybody comments on how nice it is to walk on because it really has a lot of give. It allows water to permeate through. And it is a bit expensive, but it's really worth it, I think. That's it.
Okay, I'll take a look at that material. I'm vaguely familiar with it. I think it's similar to like a modern day track, right? With the rubberized material.
Yeah.
It is. Sean, this was a big conversation for Lockhart Stadium and the pathway that we've been talking about around the community center there. So it's already been part of the conversation. I'm sure that there's notes on that with Commissioner Moritas. So
Okay, great. Thank you.
Everybody finished with Sean? That's a great presentation. Thank you for the update.
No, I appreciate it. I got a note from Carl that I'll send the presentation to him. He'll be able to distribute. And you know, I talk to Carl frequently, so any other questions, just you can get in contact with me or Carl, and I'm sure he'll track me down. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Leona, I know that a couple things changed on our agenda. Should I be adding anything before we hear from the member of the public and the board comments?
We could check to see if he's even present because I don't see an additional name here. Is Mr. Andrew Abbott?
Andrew Abbott or
Abbott?
Andrew Abbott, member of the
I don't
public?
think he's here, sir. So you could proceed as is.
Okay. First, I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome Darren Heitner. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Carl.
Real quick, he is an attendee, and I don't believe he can speak.
Oh.
Let me see here. Jerry, can you help us out with that?
He's a member of the public. I thought he was going to call in.
He did. I see him listed as an attendee, but he's just not a panelist, so he can't speak.
Okay, so I don't know what to do with that because he was going to talk to us about Palm Beach County Ocean Rescue and what they're doing for the Beach Bucket Foundation. All of us had that presentation on the email that Leona had sent us. I think he was just going to.
Yeah, let Jerry chime in. Jerry may be able to help us. Jerry, you there? Okay, maybe not.
Jerry? Okay, so I'll go back to welcoming Darren Heitner. Darren, I know, there you are. And your dog was just on with you. That was adorable.
It's
So welcome.
National Dog Day, so I figured I'd invite her.
I think it's probably better when we finally get face to face that we can all go around and do our introductions. What do you guys think? Do you have anything you want to share with us? Welcome. This is a great board.
No, thank you for having me. I'm just getting my feet wet listening. I appreciate you having me here, and I look forward to taking an active role. So I'm just trying to soak it all up for now.
Okay, well, welcome. Do you guys want to go back to any of the comments that we were talking about with the properties and the water and all that? Was that something you wanted to touch upon, Alex or Brucey or anyone else?
I'm good. I think everything that needed to be said was said. Most of the stuff is putting the cart before the horse. You know, I think we got to close on these properties before we waste too much time on them. So let's just take it one step at a time and move on the agenda.
I agree with Alex because basically it's going to come back to us anyway. So.
Hey, hello. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes. Who are we
I'm
speaking?
not sure. This is Jerry. I'm not sure what was going on with my computer. I had to get my headset.
You are the one who's not allowed to have any problems, Jerry.
I'm not sure what happened. I couldn't get through to you guys, but I was trying to figure out if this 9714 telephone number was the board member you guys been trying to reach.
I think it might be Carrie.
Yes, that's Carrie's.
Okay, so I went ahead and sent them a request to unmute. If you could get in contact with them and just ensure that they're unmuted, because they have the ability to speak, but their phone is just muted. So they
Okay.
have to unmute themselves in order to be able to speak.
Is that as for Mr. Abbott as well?
Mr. Abbott, I couldn't promote Mr. Abbott.
I don't think
What?
Mr. Abbott's going to get a chance to speak.
He's
Right?
on.
Look, there he is. He's
There
right
he
there.
is.
On.
Now
Okay.
you just need to unmute.
Okay, now you have to unmute, Andrew, if you have that option. Andrew, are you on your phone or is he on his computer? Either way, you have to unmute yourself.
He's on his computer. Mr. Abbott, I went ahead and said,
Can you hear
can
me?
you hear us?
There he is.
All right, cool. Right on.
We could see you. Hi, Jerry.
Oh, you can't see me? You can't see me?
You have, can you put the video on?
I see.
There you are.
Ah, there you are.
All right, cool, man.
Yeah, welcome. Welcome.
Oh, well, thanks, guys.
Yes.
Good evening.
So typically we give the public 2 to 3 minutes. We've
got
seen
you.
the pictures. We love the whole, bucket, beach
Right.
recycling. So tell us how we can help.
Okay, so I just wanted to introduce myself and the program. We've been working with Palm Beach County. We opened up a couple of stations in Carlin Park, and we were reached out to by the city of Boynton Beach, and we opened up 3 stations at Oceanfront Park there. So basically what we're doing is we're building out these beach cleanup stations. They consist of a garbage can and cubicles with anywhere between 2 to 8 buckets in the station, giving the general public access to these buckets to clean up the beaches while they're there. We market the buckets to local businesses and wrap the buckets with their logos so they get a little advertising and show that they're doing their part in keeping our beaches clean. And they're working, and people are using the buckets. The lifeguards are loving it. Just spent yesterday with the county visiting 5 of the northern parks up in Jupiter that they're gonna hopefully get the final approval by the end of the month to put stations in there, and then kind of follow through with the southern part of the county parks. So that's what we're doing. And, it was just something that I wasn't sure would be beneficial to Fort Lauderdale. And if so, I'd be happy to kind of bring a program down there,
Okay, we have one question from the board. This is Alex.
Hey there, Andrew. I love anything that has to do with getting the beaches cleaned up. Obviously, it's a big problem, especially when we have events on the beaches. I've always advocated for, the city's been pretty good about putting trash cans along the major areas, but then there's other areas that don't have it. My question for you is, who takes care of the buckets of trash? Is that the individual company's responsibility, or is the city actually picking up the trash in the buckets, or how does that work?
So basically, people are going to pick up trash with the buckets, right? They're going to bring it back to the station. They're going to dump the trash that they picked up that's in the bucket into the garbage can that is tied into the station, right?
Okay.
So now the city is going to be responsible for emptying those trash cans.
You mean a lifeguard station? Is that what you're talking about?
No, do you have a picture of right? Okay, so now in the center of those buckets, there is a 17-gallon garbage can.
Okay.
So when they grab that bucket and they
Marianne.
walk down to the beach, they pick up their trash, they're gonna dump that trash into the garbage can that's in the center there. Now the whoever's responsible for picking up the trash, whether it be Ocean Rescue, whether it be the city or the rangers, the park rangers, they will be responsible for emptying that trash can.
So it's basically just a little prefabricated volunteer station for just picking up trash.
That is exactly what it is.
Okay, that's great.
And it gets, and what it does, is it promotes awareness, so when you see these stations, you actually, you notice we got a problem and we need your help to keep it going. But also when we market the buckets to the local businesses, it's getting them involved.
Yeah.
And, what we do is we try to get them to hold multiple cleanups, even if it's 2 beach cleanups a year, right? If we have 12 different businesses, local businesses that are doing 2 beach cleanups a year, now we got 24 beach cleanups a year. The buckets are there 24/7.
Yeah.
So, so we're creating this community awareness and we're getting local nonprofits involved and businesses, government, the different municipalities. So we're creating a little something.
Yeah.
That's what the
biggest problem that we've had is then mobilizing large groups of people to go out and do this huge beach sweep, but letting people do it individually, I think is brilliant. I think that's a great,
Right.
a great way to participate. Everybody's schedule is different. There's always these movements. I never have time, but I always pick up other people's trash when I'm at the beach, and something like that would be ideal, I think.
Right.
Phil, you have some input, Phil?
Yeah, a couple of questions, I guess. One, what's the reasoning for the advertising on the buckets? Are you getting revenue from the businesses that are purchasing advertising on the buckets?
Yes, that is how, first of all, that's how the stations are paid for. It is a nonprofit. Well, it will be a nonprofit. I am waiting on my nonprofit status as we speak. But yeah, I mean, basically that's how, it keeps the foundation going and being able to, keep building.
Okay, so I guess a couple concerns I would have as the director of the department. One is we don't really allow advertising on the beach. So that could be a concern we'd have to work through. And then secondly, if it's going to be a revenue producing, we'd probably have to bid it out. We can't just give you a contract if you're gaining revenue on public property without allowing others to have the same opportunity to do that. So it's, you could be my cousin's brother, and I can't just let you go out there and start making money on our beach. So not to say we can't do it, but there's a couple challenges for that to take place on Fort Lauderdale Beach.
Even being that it's a nonprofit?
Yes.
Okay.
If it's going to make money, then other nonprofits may have the same interest. I mean, we could probably, it might be a little easier as a not-for-profit, but anytime you're making money on the beach or any public property with city procurement rules, that can be a challenge. And again, we don't allow advertising, so that's going to be probably a bigger hurdle. So if you go down there now, you don't see, all kinds of different companies with their signs along the beach. So that's something we'd have to look at as well. But I think it's a great idea, and it's something I think we can pursue. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that that's kind of out there as something we need to look at. Thank you.
Now let me ask you, if I didn't, if I promoted myself, let's say if I achieved funding from a different way, right? And let's just say if I had my buckets that said, Beach Bucket Foundation in the stations and not necessarily promoting or advertising the other local businesses, would that make a difference?
I would say yes, that'll probably make quite a bit of difference, but we would still have to check with our attorney's office to make sure they're the ones that kind of have the challenges and the concerns with the advertising. So we would just need to make sure. But if it's your foundation and you're providing the service, that's much better than having the bubble gums on the side of the bucket.
Yeah, never ran into that.
So we can look at that as well.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Debbie, do you have a last question before we move on?
Well, it's more of a statement more than anything else. I have a huge community of open water swimmers that basically myself and my significant other pretty much just, you know, we run the program. It's not a program. It's just whenever the conditions allow. And I've always been wanting to get involved in a beach cleanups, you know, beach sweep cleanup. And this would be a great opportunity because it gives us an avenue as to where we actually, you know, put things, as opposed to some of the overflown trash containers or receptacles that we normally see, where there really is any way to put anything. So I would be all for a program such as something like this. And I certainly could rally the troops because I do have a really nice community of open water swimmers. And we do swim a lot given the conditions.
Okay, right on.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew. So I guess my recommendation is to be in communication with Leona or Carl. I'm not sure as far as trying to follow through the process. Carl?
Yes, so I wanted to kind of piggyback on a couple comments here, being that I kind of was recently made aware of this today, so I haven't really been able to fully research the idea. I think it's a good idea, but in speaking with staff, in the short term, there's a concern about the sanitation of the buckets and the cross-contamination or spread of COVID,
right.
As well as because our beach is very populous and very popular, and you know we constantly clean the beach quite a bit. One of the concerns is a patron using the bucket for toiletry purposes, and then another individual coming behind them and using that same bucket that kind of was already touched by somewhat of a use that, you know, so there's that concern. And so
I understand that, I guess.
A couple things that we have to kind of work through from a safety and bacterial perspective on
Yeah, I understand that, and that's the first I've heard of that, but I guess, you know, we are talking Fort Lauderdale, you know, so.
Probably not the same concern you have in Boynton, right?
No, I think different communities definitely have different concerns, yeah.
Alex, you have a last question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I mean, I guess Carl makes a valid point, trying to think of a solution. What's the access now? I saw the little model that Mariana put up. What is it? You just walk up and grab the bucket? Is that what it is? Or do you have to like insert some form of ID to access it? Or what's the deal with the bucket? You just walk up?
You just walk up and grab the bucket,
Okay.
You know? And again, and with all of this COVID stuff, you know, the idea came to me, the program came into play before all of this, right? So yes, you know, those are concerns, you know. We placed them in Carlin Park and Boynton Beach, probably 2 months prior to the shutdown. Yeah. So, you know, yeah, things have changed for sure, you know. You know, how that's going to play out in the future, who knows, you know. But that is definitely something that we are concerned about. And you know, if it is that big of a concern moving forward, then I understand that, you know.
Yeah, it might be worth looking into a design feature that, you know, you have to have a way to access the bucket in which like maybe, you know, like you either take a key like you get from the locker when you go to the local water park, or some way to access the bucket.
Yeah, but what is that? Excuse me, how is that going to change anything as far as
well, if you've ever been on the Fort Lauderdale beach at night, there's a lot of people that are unsavory, that are out and about, and
I see.
some sailor stealing the bucket because he wants to wash his boat, you know? So
Understood.
I'm thinking that if you can somehow restrict or limit the access to people that want to volunteer, and whether it's, you know, put your ID up to it, or, you know, you have to have a credit card to access it. I don't know.
Right.
But I like the idea, but I think that you might have to take it to the next level in order to make it work in Fort Lauderdale.
This is something we'll have to chip away, Andrew. Let's try to see if we can get your stations along Fort Lauderdale Beach and the best process for that, and then we can narrow down the details on how to make it safe and the most
Right.
feasible for the public. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. It's a great idea.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. I appreciate you guys having me. It was nice to join you.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other board comments that you guys want to present to Carl or Phil, or anything to bring up? Alex, is your hand up again or still up?
Yes. Oh, shoot, where's the hand?
All right, Brucey, you're next.
We had discussed fines for trash on the beach, and I just happened to call and check in on a bunch of different places, and a lot of places have fines. I don't know if that was something that we wanted to continue to look at or not.
Are you talking businesses or individuals?
No, individuals and individuals and businesses. Most of it was individuals. I mean, they have some huge fines out in LA for beach waste. I mean, it's very interesting when I started
I
checking
think that's a
around.
great idea if you can hear me still.
All right, Andrew, this is just going to be more comment time though, but we appreciate it.
Okay, I'm done. So
Bruce, thank you. Brucey, what I'm thinking is that if that's something that you really want to present, I think that information needs to be gathered, and then we actually put it on the agenda and have it as something we vote on and find out if it's practical, unless Phil or Carl have, I think that's a good idea. Phil, Carl, you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I wondered how they felt.
No, I think it's definitely something the board could talk about. I think the challenge is going to be who's the trash belong to. I mean, if a cup's sitting there or trash, you know, first off, somebody has to visually see it, probably a police officer or somebody that's allowed to give a fine. And then secondly, they're going to have to be able to somehow show that that cup came from that individual. But I think it's something definitely that we should, you know, the board can talk about, and we can try to work through some of the challenges. I mean, there's a litter ordinance or on the books now,
Right.
but it's
Wouldn't
almost
it be the same as
unenforceable.
that?
It's the same, but it's just, you know, the police officer has to see it. And then the police officer that does see it then needs to make sure that that's its high priority at the time. Do I want to go over and write this person up for throwing a bag out the door of the car or leaving a trash on the beach? So, I mean, we do have a littering ordinance now, but it's just, I don't know if it's ever been enforced, just because it's probably not top priority, and it's from what I understand, it's a lot of challenges just to pinpoint who did it. If a cup, for example, comes flying out of a car, if there's only one person in the car, then you can probably say that person did it. But if there's 2 or 3 people, and they can all say, it wasn't me, that was this guy. So anyway, I think it's something if the board wants to look at, we can definitely, you know, something to talk about.
But if the ordinance is already in place, it's really just getting police to enforce the ordinance, not actually creating a fine on beaches ordinance, correct?
Yeah, so I think maybe the first step would be that Leona or Carl can just provide the board with the ordinances in place now, and you guys can see what it is and see whether it's something that you want to either add to, or you would, you know, want to recommend that we do a little bit more enforcing of the ordinance that's currently in place. But that might be a good place to start, Leona.
Yeah, and I kind of just real quick to kind of piggyback off of what Phil mentioned, the challenge with that is going to be the visual portion of it, meaning that the officer is going to have to see them do that. And you know, we've kind of dealt with police in a variety of different areas, and that always tends to be a challenge. But we certainly can pull up the ordinance and share with the board, and if you all deem appropriate, we can bring it back. But I know the enforcement part is going to be the biggest challenge regardless if we do this or not.
Brucey?
Carl, is it something that they could do? We could have volunteer people on the beach? Is that so out of line with enforcing something like that?
Well, you can have volunteers. The problem is they don't have citation privileges. So essentially, you know, unless it's a police officer or a park ranger that's going to physically see them engage in littering, then, you know, it's good to have. I don't want to, you know, discourage us at any point, but I'm just saying, I want you to be aware of what those challenges will be.
Right.
If we choose to
Right.
move.
And I guess what I would assume is that these people would be given that right to give out maybe warnings, just to make people aware that this is something that we could really enforce. I mean, I'm just thinking of a deterrent.
Understood, but you know, this is Fort Lauderdale Beach, and having a volunteer issue a citation, that could go wrong on many levels.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yes,
Charlie?
there we go. A couple of things. Has the city ever considered beach police like some of these other cities like LA or Miami Beach or like have? Because the South Beach parking lot in that area right there, if you've ever been there on the weekend, late in the afternoon on a Saturday or Sunday, is it's a little crazy. It was before the COVID-19. That area could certainly use a little more policing in real police, as opposed to a park ranger, as Carl noted.
What area? I'm sorry, I'm trying to follow you. What area?
South Beach parking lot down by the old Yankee Clipper or the B, whatever you call it now these days. That area on a weekend, late in the afternoon from 3 to 9 o'clock is can be a little sketchy. So is the city ever considered having real beach police like some of these other major cities that are along the ocean, LA, Miami Beach, other places?
So I have not heard that, but we do have park ranger that is stationed out there. Now, mind you, the beach is what, 6 miles or 13 miles long?
Right. I'm specifically talking about South Beach parking lot.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any program to have a police officer or a ranger stationed there.
I know just some cities have beach police who also take care of some of these other issues that we've talked about.
I have to agree, Charlie. I bought my kids parking passes for the city permit parking on the north side of the new beach parking garage because they work at Coconuts, and I'm too afraid for them to walk to their car at nighttime. I go pick them up and drive them to their car at nighttime. It's very sketchy down there. It's so disappointing that that's our neighborhood beach. Alex, Caleb?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a couple of suggestions, and I had a couple of questions. Littering it was one of those things that really gets my goat, and I would like to see some level of enforcement, but I guess it sounds to me like park rangers they don't have the authority to issue a citation. Carl, do you know, or Phil, do you know how much the citation would be if you actually got caught littering by a police officer on Fort Lauderdale Beach?
So park rangers do have the ability to issue a citation. I don't know what that cost is. I don't know if Phil knows or not. We can certainly find that answer out for you, but
okay.
They can't issue citations. That's within their wheelhouse.
Well, lacking any enforcement at the moment, I would like to propose maybe an initiative where we could have a bounty for a portion of the cost of the fine for people to film and report people that are littering. In this day and age with cameras everywhere, I know on my dash cam, I constantly have people throwing trash out the window, and I have it on camera. We have their license plates. I see it on the beach. I take pictures of it, but is it enforceable? That might be something you want to take to your either the attorneys for the city, or maybe whoever's in charge of justice there. But I think a bounty program would get everybody out there, if you can make a buck off of it and you catch somebody littering, let them take a picture, submit it, and then, you know, obviously putting it through prosecution and everything is a whole nother realm. But if you put it out there, I think it will really, really stop people from littering, even if you only get a couple people make it on the news or something, that, you know, this is a program that we're not going to put up with anymore, people littering on the beaches. You know, I would be all for that. I would be willing to propose to this board to make a motion towards the commission to have a bounty for people that are littering on the beaches.
I'm not sure if I need to say anything about that.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm just thinking out loud here, but absent any enforcement, I mean, you know, there's no reason we can't monitor the beaches ourselves.
The only thing I'll add to that is, you know, if we do have a bounty program, I want to be out there spring break so I can make $1 million.
That's exactly.
If we ever have another spring break.
I'll be grabbing one of those buckets and
raise your hands.
I have one other thing.
too.
I have one other thing.
Go ahead.
The soccer team actually played a real game in the soccer stadium on Saturday night. It was nobody was there other than the fans, the coaches and the players and the other folks, but they had their first soccer game in the new stadium. And that's a beautiful stadium if you have not had a chance to drive by and take a look.
How much litter do they have in the parking lot?
0.
No visitors allowed, no garbage.
Well,
So
it's a
it's
beautiful
100%
stadium.
complete? The stadium's 100% complete, Charlie?
Yes, it is. It was finished the day
That was
before
darn fast.
the first game when they canceled the season. Everything was done, but they've spent the last 2-3 months working on a punch list, you know, getting it 100% complete. But they're done and out of there. Just the managing folks who manage the park every day.
That was
That's really
fast.
exciting. Alex, is your hand up again or still up? Okay. How about, I have a question. Any updates on DC Alexander, maybe when we're going to break ground? Carl?
I'm sorry, I was answering the email and I heard you about DC Alexander. I have not heard anything on DC Alexander project. Phil, you got anything on that one?
No, I really don't. They are still finalizing the plans, and then once the plans are finalized, then they'll need to look for funding. And still don't know where that's coming from either. So I will follow up and Carl can share with the board on where we're at on DC Alexander. But that's kind of taken the back seat now to the finishing the aquatic center and then finishing the rest of the streetscape on A1A, and then DC Alexander then will become the last project down there. So it's not moving very quickly at this point.
Yeah.
Bill, wasn't there some funding deadlines that had to be met or kept or something in order to keep that funding?
Well, that was the beach CRA funding that was supposed to go there, but it had to be moved because of the shortfall at the aquatic center and other things. So that's the challenge now. The funding that was going to go to DC Alexander has been moved to other projects. So now it doesn't have any money to do what needs to be done.
Okay.
Bill, I thought that CRA had an extension on their sunset.
They have an extension as long as, yes, they just need to get started before, as long as the project is started, then they don't get sunsetted. The project has to start before they sunset, but they can still go into the years after the sunset to finish the project. But the issue really, going back to DC Alexander, is the funding. The funding was moved out of DC Alexander and for other projects, mainly the aquatic center. So now there's no funding in the CRA for DC Alexander at all. So the sunset really doesn't matter.
For those of you who haven't peeked over the wall at the aquatic center, it's pretty exciting. It's definitely underway.
Very exciting.
Yeah. Leona, am I missing anything?
No, Karen. I just wanted to confirm though, if Carrie was able to make it online, I just wanted to clarify for the record his vote on the first motion.
I don't know if he can.
Yeah, he did, but he's still unable to get off of mute. But he sent me a email saying that he did.
It's to everybody, Leona. So we have it
Okay.
in writing that he was voting yes, if I remember
Oh,
correctly.
okay, got it. Duly noted.
Okay. I see hands going back up. Charlie, are you still up?
No, it's my hand.
Well, there's three.
Oh,
I see Charlie, Brucey, and Alex. So I don't know who is next now. Brucey?
Two questions I forgot to ask. Had we talked about the Flagler Park and the Revolution possible partnership? And the second one was, I didn't think that park money went into elementary school projects. And I see that there is some money going into the elementary school park. Just curious about those.
Can you repeat your first question? We'll go one at a
Yes,
time.
there was a group of upset people about Flagler Park. I think they're calling it Flagler Park, and it was going to be possibly going in with with the nightclub Revolution, moving over there instead of using it as a park, using it. I mean, that was apparently one of the upsets that Flagler Village was having. I mean, I'm saying that wrong?
So this is Phil. I think I understand what her question is. This is the what we call the old one-stop shop, which is
Yes.
catty corner to City Hall.
Right.
So that property has been discussed for many years, and the community around there has wanted that to become a park. It's not zone park. It's not park property now. So that's being discussed. And then there's also what they call a P3 or a public-private partnership. And there's a unsolicited proposal, which I haven't actually seen, but I understand that the city has received at least one on a private development that would come in and do some kind of improvements to the area, and then also look at what kind of public space would be allowed. I'm not a expert on these unsolicited proposals, but I understand it has to be for a public purpose. So whatever, if there's something that goes on there through a private partnership, through the unsolicited, it would have to be for public purpose. So anyway, long story short, that's kind of still in the review process to see even if these unsolicited proposals meet that threshold. And if they are, then the community and the city commission and everyone will kind of talk about whether they want to continue to talk about a P3, or they want it to become a park, or they want it to become something else. So that's still out there being discussed at this point. The I remember your second question.
The elementary school
Yeah,
park money being used for that.
So if it's for us to improve school property, is that what you're saying, that we're using city dollars to improve school property?
It was one of the things. It was one of the things that was sent out today, and it surprised me because I didn't think our money went into elementary school parks.
No, we do that a lot.
I thought the education.
If for example, like the parks bond, for example, we possibly will be using some school board property to develop some park space on school board property. So where we're not able to either find property or we don't have to purchase property ourselves, we improve the school board property with, and then we have an agreement that we can use that for the public after school and on weekends and things like that. So if you look at, we have many of those examples now. Croissant Park, for example, is on school board property. Florinata Park's on school board property. We just built a playground at Bennett Elementary School, which may be what you're talking about, but that's on, yeah. So that was done on school board property, but now hopefully once that we're opening back up, then that playground area and that play area, the entire play area is then open to the community for after school and on weekends and on non-school days. And that area specifically, that we don't have any parks, and there was a lot of kids that had no access to open space. So that made it was a great fit for us to be able to do that on the school board property. So we've done it in the past, and it's really a good partnership, and we hope to do some more in the future.
Thank you.
Right, she's responding to the email we received today regarding the Joint Schools Parks project, and it states that it was identified in the original bond list per agreement between our school board city. This has been going on for years.
Yep.
Alex, is your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Phil and Carl and Leona, or whoever put together that nice little parks bond expenditure spreadsheet with some of the amounts and how the parks bond is getting used up. I want to say that that's a really user-friendly spreadsheet, and hope we can keep that as part of our regular meeting.
Oh, Alex, to kind of touch on that one, anything that looks that good comes from Leona.
Well, then thank you very much, Leona, because that's a very simple circle graph, cut top, bond balance. I mean, just a bulletproof expenditure spreadsheet that I think is what all of us had in some way or shape or form wanted. And I just wanted to give you kudos for that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any updates on our new program manager that we need to know, Phil or Carl, or?
Well, I can just say, I think maybe Carl sent you the commission memo that Chris sent out. They are working. They have their first task order. Kind of the first thing they're working on is they're doing to Alex's point, they are responsible to develop a web page that will link to our web page, and that will have all the information on what's the timetables, what's going to happen, what's already happened, how much money's left, all that kind of stuff is going to be on the web page. The second thing that they're working on right now is the outreach portion. So unfortunately with the COVID, that's really changed a lot. They were going to go back out to the communities and just, as we had promised, to say, this is what we were planning to do. This is, what are your thoughts? Now they're going to have to do that virtually. So they are putting that together now. And the idea would be that we'll work through the community associations and the city as a whole, and need to have those reviews and updates and input virtually at this point. So they're doing that now. Hopefully we can get back in a room, but even if we do, I think a lot of the stuff they're doing will be helpful, because we can reach people that maybe can't come to a physical meeting, but can do it online and see the same information online that they might see if they had, if they had to come to a 6:30 meeting in a location. So they're working on that as well. And then the third thing that they're doing kind of with this first task order is they have a grants section. So they're out scouring for money and grants that they can apply for to match some of the dollars that they'll be spending, so that those grants are in place as well. So we're trying to stretch our dollars as much as we can and try to find additional funds. And that was part of their scope as well, was not only to find them, but also apply for them. So they have a couple grant writers on their staff that's doing. So those kind of three things are all rolling right now, hoping that within the next month or two, they'll kind of have a timeline set on how that's all going to roll out. And then I think that's probably going to be a good time for them to come and talk to the board, so you guys can kind of see some of the product that they're doing. But I think a bigger issue is really going to be the timeline and seeing what their thoughts are on how this whole program is going to roll out over the next 3 or 4 years. That's it for me.
Final messages from anybody? Final thoughts? Any motions to adjourn?
Oh, I thought we'd just stay here all night.
I make a motion.
I motion to adjourn.
I second that motion.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you, Leona.
The last day.
Thank you,
Good night.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank
Thank you, Bill.
This worked out well.
Oh, good
Very
job.
good. Yeah, it was a good meeting.
Good
Yeah.
meeting.
It was a good meeting.
Thank you.
And I haven't officially met you, Debbie, either. I'm sorry. I'm not even sure if we've welcomed you. I'm so lost with all these virtual meetings now.
I've been here since April, so.
Okay. Very nice to meet you. All
I'm
right.
sure you're doing virtual sales too, aren't you?
I honestly, no, I'm like totally, I've been so busy. Real estate's been crazy. Really.
great.
I've got people moving out of assisted living. People don't want to